Hi, this is Chadwick from Coffee Shopped, and in this video I want to show you the bank management features of Patchbase. These features are new in Patchbase, and they allow you to back up an entire bank of patches from your synth onto your iPad, as well as store new banks of sounds from your iPad onto your synth, and rearrange those banks however you want. These features let you use Patchbase to create and organize your sounds, but then say if you're playing a show or you're traveling somewhere, you can just save all your sounds to the synth and leave your iPad at home. For today's demo, I'll be using the Korg mini log, which I have hooked up to my iPad. So first, I'm just going to open up Patchbase, and then I'll select the mini log. So when you first select an editor, you're going to see the patch editor. So here we have the patch editor for the mini log. But if I tap on the editor tabs up there and then select bank from this list, then I get the bank editor. So what you're looking at here is the bank editor. On the right, where you see the words init program repeated a bunch of times, that is sort of the default bank file that Patchbase has loaded, since it doesn't know yet what's on your synth. And on the left, we have a browser that is showing all the sounds that are stored on the iPad already. I have several sounds stored already. That's what you'll use to load sounds from the iPad into the bank. I'll get into that more in a minute. But the first thing you want to do when you first open up the bank editor is you want to load the bank of sounds from your synth onto the iPad. So to do that, you just tap the fetch button in the top right here, and you get this progress bar that shows the data coming from the synth into Patchbase. This process can take anywhere from a few seconds to a couple of minutes, depending on the synth. Some synths have really big banks. Some of them send data more slowly. But yeah, so we're just going to wait a few more moments and let this download complete. Almost there. And voila, now we have all of the sounds from the mini log saved into Patchbase. You can see that there are 200 sounds stored. With the mini log, the first 100 sounds are presets that come on the synth, and then the second 100 sounds are blank spots for you to save your own sounds. You can actually save to any of these spots, though. Okay, so after you've loaded the sounds, a good next step is to save that bank as a file. So to do that, I'll open up the browser area on the right by tapping that button. So this browser area shows all of your saved banks. Since this is the first bank that I'm saving, this area is empty. Before I save, I'll give my bank a name by just tapping in the top name area. I will call this one First Backup. So I've changed the name, and now I just tap the Save button in the bottom right, and my bank shows up as a file saved on the iPad. Now let me close that browser, and I'll show you how you can edit your banks. So first off, you can swap sounds around within the bank really easily. To do that, you just tap and hold on a sound. So I'll tap on this polylog first sound, and then move it to where you want it to be stored. I'll put it over here in 20, and then you let go. And now I see that the polylog sound is stored in 20, and the popper synth sound got moved to slot 1. So Patchbase now has this undo feature in the bank editor as well as the patch editor, where you can undo as many actions as you want. So say I messed up and I didn't actually want to swap those sounds, I can just hit the undo button up here, and it undoes the swap that I just did. And each of these actions that you take are immediately saved to the synth as you do them. So the memory on the synth is staying in sync with Patchbase at all times. Next, let's say you have a sound stored on your iPad and you want to save it to your synth. That's what the browser on the left is for. You just drag a sound you want from the bank area. So I'll take this bubbly fly sound and just drop it where you want, say the SF key. And now I see that sound 12 has bubbly fly. Again, if I want to undo that, just hit undo. It goes back to SF key. I can also redo it. Just tap redo. And now it's bubbly fly again. So you'll notice that the browser on the left has 3 tabs: patch, bank, and synth. All 3 tabs store sounds that you can add to your banks. The first tab, patch, is where you can access all of the individual sounds you have saved on your iPad. So if you've used the patch editor and created a bunch of sounds, or if you've downloaded individual sound files and imported them into Patchbase, this tab is where you will find those patches. You can have folders, and browse through them. So yeah, that's where you see all of your patches. The second tab, the bank tab, is where you can browse through any bank files that you have stored on your iPad. So if you have entire synth banks saved on the iPad, this is where you'll see them. So for instance, that first backup bank that we saved already is showing here in the list. If I tap on it, it shows me all of the sounds that are stored inside of that first backup file. And if I wanted to take one of them, say the flutter pad sound, and take it out of that bank and into the bank in Patchbase, I just do that, and there we have it. Again, I can undo it. The third tab is the synth tab. So this is where you can see the sounds that are stored on the synth itself. For the mini log, this tab is just showing the same thing on the left. If I open the voice bank, we're seeing the same thing on the left as we see on the right, because it only has one bank. Some synths are going to have multiple banks. So this tab is an easy way for you to take a sound out of one bank and import it into another, like say from bank 1 on your synth to bank 2, etc. So using these tabs, I can add new sounds to my bank. Each time I add a sound to the bank, as I mentioned, Patchbase is automatically transmitting that sound to the synthesizer so that the memory of the synth is always staying in sync. And again, I can save that bank that I've already created at any time by opening up the browser again. I can just give it another name. Let's say I just call it bank 2. And then I hit save, and now it's saved as a separate file. Let's say I wanted to go back to the first bank that I downloaded and saved. I just tap on first backup, and Patchbase asks me if I want to overwrite my synth. That's just a safety measure, because doing this is going to overwrite all of the sounds on your synth. I just hit overwrite, and now Patchbase is sending all of those patches in the background to the synth. So yeah, that covers the basics of how the bank editor works in Patchbase 3. Thanks for watching.